It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
So Tammy, we have a guest today that I am very honored to have on. If there's anyone that knows about American agriculture and boots on the ground when it comes to the farm gate, it is this guest, and I know you're excited about it too, but I'm curious as to why.
Well, I'm just excited to hear it, from the top down.
Yeah.
Someone who's had numerous years, in agriculture as well as representing the American Farm Bureau. I mean, such an honor to have him, and I'm just really excited to learn from him.
So, and he really exemplifies today's American farmer and the passion of it. So, drum roll, please. We're interviewing American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall, and I can't believe this, President Duvall has served almost nearly a decade, and you are a third-generation farmer from Georgia. That's a point I want to emphasize with our listeners today. We're talking to a farmer. He may be president of a big organization, but he's boots-on-the-ground farmer. And you're farming with your son, I believe, operating a beef cow herd, raising boiler chickens, and you continue to restore the farmland that has been in the family for 90-plus years. So it's very interesting. Through your leadership, President Duvall has helped to shape the 2018 Farm Bill and is working to ensure Congress passes a new modernized farm bill that effectively supports farmers and ranchers and consumers. He has helped defeat misguided regulation, shepherded a new trade agreements, and in 2024 stopped Wall Street regulations from hitting farms and played a key role in securing $30 billion in aid for farmers and ranchers hit by our natural and economic disasters. So you're busy, and we feel privileged for you to join us, but I have to tell a personal story about you. So you've been to Arizona at least 2, if not 3 times, and I've been on some of these farm tours with you, and I was trying to take a selfie of it, and you said, here, I'll show you how to do that. So I learned to take really good selfies from President Duvall. So you're a man of many talents, and I'll never forget that. It was so fun. In fact, we were on a dairy farm, Tammy, when he showed me how to do selfies. So welcome. And President Duvall, my first question to you is, from your perspective as not only a Georgia farmer, but as president of the American Farm Bureau, what do you like to tell consumers about that farm gate to healthy plate perspective that Tammy and I talk about on a regular basis?
Well, really the best way to find that out is for families to get together and spend an afternoon and go out and meet the local farmers in the area and talk to them about what they do each and every day. Because the statistics show that when a family or a person would go onto a farm with an open mind, visit with a farmer and really see what he does, how he does it, why he does it, and really comes away with an understanding of how safe that food is and how much dedication and commitment that farmer puts into making sure he does all the right things. And he does it not just for their families, your family, but he also does it for his own family. Because
right.
As farmers, we feed the same food that we grow for you, for them that they pick up at the grocery store or at the food market. We feed that to our children. So we take a lot of pride and a lot of work goes into doing what's right.
And my vibe is over the years, because you started in the Farm Bureau, President Duvall, when you were in the Young Farmer and Rancher program, which is one of the programs that Farm Bureau family pursues. My vibe is that he's probably given a lot of farm tours, Tammy.
I bet you're correct. I bet he's in demand.
Yes.
But, and you have such an impressive record. I was doing a little bit of reading on you and have accomplished so many things while you've been president of the American Farm Bureau. Julie mentioned one of them, that you were able to secure over $30 billion worth of aid to our farmers when they needed it. And thought it might be a good idea to explain to our listeners, the consumer, how that 30 billion that helped the farmers in turn really helps them in the end as well, and the connection between the two.
In other words, the grassroots structure of the Farm Bureau.
Yeah, and Julie gives me a lot, y'all give me a lot of credit, but no one does anything alone. And I have a great team at Washington, D.C. that work for American Farm Bureau that get up every day, try to make lives better in rural America and make lives better for the American people out there by supplying that good food that we do. But we also have great teams at the state level that work alongside of us and at the county level. And it really is a grassroots organization from the bottom up. I work for them and I push the policies that our farmers and ranchers put forward each and every day. So every time we go visit the Hill, or every time I walk into the Oval Office to speak to the president about agriculture and tell the farmer's story, it is a powerful tool that we use. And what people need to understand is how it helps them, all Americans, is it makes sure that we can sustain our farms from generation to generation, because there's less than 2% of the population in America that produce the food that we eat. And we need to make sure that those farms can continue to operate so that we can have that good, safe supply of food that is grown here in America for the American people, and that we provide the national security that goes along with it, because we don't have to depend on any other country to feed us. We can feed ourselves, and that makes us a very powerful country and safe.
That's awesome. You had another good question about modernized and improved workforce. Why don't you ask that question as well?
Oh, okay. We're skipping over your question.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going rogue here. Immigration. We know immigration's a huge issue, and we know also that you have spoken many times on modernizing and improving the workforce. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you see that unfolding to make an improved workforce for the farmer?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we have tried to modernize our guest worker program that we have. Way outdated. It's over-regulation to the farmers, and it has a built-in wage rates that's outgrowing the wage rate for the regular citizen out there. So it's making it unaffordable for our farmers to actually hire those people. And we have depended on immigrant labor for decades to harvest our crops and help us take care of our animals. And we do that because Americans just don't want to do that work anymore. They don't want to come to the farm and work the long hours and put the time in to do what we have to do to raise that crop and get it to the American people. So we have to have a modernized program that gives us a stable legal workforce and fix what the problems that we have in it. And that really, truly, that is the biggest challenge and the biggest limiting factor agriculture has, is making sure that we have, because we can't find that stable legal workforce. And there are a lot of issues around it. A lot of people are very passionate about the immigrants that have come here. But the immigrants that have come here and been on some of these farms 10 or 15 years, they are skilled workers.
Right.
You can't just take someone in and put them in a dairy barn to milk cattle that milk cows. It's never done it before. They could destroy a herd of cows, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars worth of cows that you have to do it and do it right to take care of them. And crops are the same way. So we have to have skilled workers, and we have to find a way to either bring them here or be able to maintain the ones we have.
And Tammy, you'll appreciate this. You had a dairy, correct? I don't know if you have the dairy now, but you used to run a dairy. Your family had a dairy farm.
Yeah, I grew up on a dairy farm, bought it from my dad after he had a massive heart attack, and ran it for 30 years as I raised my 4 children there.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point too, that they have to be trained and skilled. And I know now with the dairy industry and other industries as well, I mean, you have to have trained workers so that they're safe, but also the animal care issue is so important too, and they have to really understand how important it is to
Right.
treat the animals properly and take good care of them.
And the guest worker programs we have don't even allow dairies to use it because it's not a seasonal job. It's a year-round job, and the guest worker program we have doesn't allow for year-round use of it. So it needs to be modernized. Every farmer in this country, there should be a program that every farmer, regardless of where he's at, what he's growing, should have access to that stable, legal workforce provided through some program.
And American Farm Bureau Federation, their policy has the blueprint. So we know what we're talking about, what we're asking for. And because of its grassroots orientation, a lot of this policy insights and brilliance coming right up through our farmers and ranchers, the county level, the state level, and then to American Farm Bureau Federation. It's an amazing process and one that inspires. One of the reasons why my parents have been Farm Bureau members all their life. My dad, who's retired, is still a Farm Bureau member. But I'm going to get a little personal on you, President Duvall. I remember when you were first elected by farmers and ranchers, the delegates of the delegate body for the American Farm Bureau Federation. I believe that was in 2016. If
That's right.
you've almost hit a decade, then. And you went on a 50-state visit to a variety of farms and ranches throughout the country. And I always classified it as a marathon effort on your part. And of course, we had the privilege of hosting you in Arizona on behalf of Arizona Farm Bureau. What overriding perspective, though, I never got to ask you this question, and I've always wanted to. What overriding perspective did you come away with on this marathon cross-country American agriculture tour? And you still seem to be on the road a lot. I guess that's part of what the gig is when you become president for American Farm Bureau Federation. But what was your perspective? What did you walk away with?
Well, I would tell you, Julie, that every president that comes to this position, and I'm the 12th individual to have the privilege to serve in this position, kind of creates his own administration and how he wants to handle it. I can't, as coming up through the organization, going through the Young Farmer Program, I realized how important engaged membership was. And when I found out how little they knew, how little the farmer out there that was building our policy, how little they knew of all the work that we were doing at American Farm Bureau, and that I knew right then that one of the reasons I had to travel was to make sure they knew that American Farm Bureau had their backs, was pushing their policies, and helping them helping the policymakers develop policies that's good for our farmers and ranchers out there. Our farmers and ranchers need to know that, and the only way they could do it was actually see somebody from American Farm Bureau, and who better to do that than the president? And it means so much to them when I come to their communities. But the other thing is, I get more out of it than they do, because I get their stories to be able to store them in my memory, in my mind, to be able to share them in very important places. From Capitol Hill with congressmen and senators that need to hear those stories. Not every farmer can leave their farm and come to Washington, D.C. to tell it. So I'm very arrogant to tell that story, and then on to USDA, USTR, where the trade efforts are going on, and even into the White House, into the president. Had a great visit just not long ago with the president for 25 minutes. And I shared so many farmer stories in that 25 minutes to help him understand the situation that our farmers were in and the challenges that we were facing.
Yeah, and you're still on the road, and I know a lot of that comes with the job. And proof of the pudding, then, if you got to have a 25-minute visit with the president, I think that's what you said, then that marathon visit and the continued visits that you have going out, boots on the ground to our farms and ranches throughout the United States is paying off. Thank you so much. I know that I was excited because in my role with Arizona Farm Bureau, some of that fell on me to coordinate some of the tours and stuff, and it was a great honor. It was really fun.
Well, you are constantly.
One of the things, Julie, I discovered though early on was, even though I had been farming for 30, 35 years, I just knew my little piece of it. Once I started traveling to different regions of the country and finding out how different our country is and how different agriculture was, and then I realized I got to know what all of the scope of agriculture entails. And the only way to do that is to go see it. And it has been a tremendous opportunity for me to learn and share with others.
Yes.
That's amazing. All that travel, that takes a lot of time. That's fantastic. And I know Julie locally is always out promoting and arranging tours and working tirelessly too. So
I'm trying to follow in my boss's footsteps. The big boss.
the big
The
boss.
American Farm Bureau
Well,
Federation boss.
I will say, hearing you spoke with the president for 25 minutes, you were about as close as I've gotten to the president. So now I know someone who knows the president. So I feel good. But just to switch gears a little bit, our consumers, every time you turn on the radio, the TV, any form of media, you hear about how all the prices of everything are going up and how concerned consumers are about food and housing. I know that it's going up for farmers as well, all of the pricing, but could you talk a little bit about some of the things they do to help try to keep that pricing as reasonable as possible when it is passed on to the consumer?
Yes, and it really starts with the Farm Bill. If you realize what the Farm Bill actually does, one, the nutrition program makes sure that people in our country that are in a very difficult time in their life have an opportunity to get a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up, and help them get through a spot to get them to a better spot where they can do for themselves. That's a big, big piece of the Farm Bill, which is really about 82 to 85% of it. The rest of it is farm programs or crop insurance, research and development, conservation programs. This list just goes on and on and on of what's in that other 15 to 16% of the Farm Bill. And that part, if you're just a consumer, just an American out there thinking about the Farm Bill, why is that important to me? Well, what it does, it provides risk management tools for farmers when natural disasters hit their farm. They can survive through that natural disaster through the crop insurance and through the programs, the farm programs, to get to the next crop. If it wasn't there, we would lose that farm. It could be developed into houses or something else and never be utilized for farming again, and we would lose that farmland. We're already losing too much farmland, so it secures that food system for the American people, making sure that they can get to the next crop. That's what's important about the Farm Bill, is those risk management tools. It's not a handout. It is there, just like you buying insurance on your car to make sure if something bad happens to your car, you can get it fixed and make it and continue to use it. That's what we're doing with farms. We're making sure they can get through difficult times, whether it's weather or whether it's markets.
Well, and staying along that lines and that whole, and you really alluded to that, but that whole food security issue on behalf of all of us as Americans, all 100% of us, what other, the Farm Bill is a big piece of it, but what other issues as it relates to securing our food supply that American Farm Bureau Federation is taking into consideration?
Yeah, well, labor, we've mentioned labor. It's a big one.
Yep.
If you think back when COVID hit and a lot of people couldn't go to work, well, our food system is a just-in-time system. The chickens that I grow on my place, they know before that chicken's hatched what day they will be harvested and where it will be sold at before the chicken even hatched. So if you lose the labor that's along that chain from my farm to where they harvest it, to where they process it, to where they haul it to the grocery store, to the man that's putting it on the shelf, all along that chain, those workers have to show up. And a lot of spots on that chain, Americans don't want to do that work. And if you take those people out, it is devastating to the supply chain and could very well cause problems like we saw during COVID with empty shelves. So those workers are important to us, not just on the farm, but all along that supply chain. And guest workers coming from other countries play a big role in that food chain, a big role.
Yeah.
Because Americans just don't want to do that work anymore.
So-
And then you talk about taxation and the tax relief that we got, and it helps farmers reinvest in their farms so that they can take better care of the animals, they can take better care of their land and soil, and build their soil health, and then they can buy the equipment that brings the technology so that we can do precision farming on our farms. And that precision farming helps us use less chemicals. It helps us secure the land and resources on our farms for future generations.
So, Tammy, when we talk about the food supply chain, we're always going to have to say just in time. It's immediate. It has to be just in time.
Well, and I think everyone should, I wish everyone could go out to a farm
Yeah.
because everything they do, from the food safety aspect, from the animal care aspect, all the technology now to really make sure everything is, as you said, just on time, but just as efficient as possible. It's all amazing.
Right. Yep.
Amazing.
And there is a way when they can't go to the farm, they can go to our social media sites, and we have some wonderful stories. And
We do.
And I think a couple of them from Arizona farmers,
Thank
but
you.
farmers from all over the country that they can see those stories and learn about farms just from those families that are doing it.
Yep.
Excellent point. You have a Talk to a Farmer Friday every week, don't you?
Yes, we're doing something a little different. It's not so much the farmer, but it's we're doing a whole overview on extension. Zippy will relate to this because, being in farming so long, and every state has an extension, a cooperative extension tied into the land grant university. But we're trying to help the public understand exactly what they do. But they take applied science, the research that was done at the university system, and they help apply it. And it's always goes back and forth. A lot of times the farmers come to the extension agents and say, hey, we need help with this. So that's how we're focusing on it this time. But I like,
What's important about that, Julie, is that's the trusted system that farmers trust, because those people work for the university. They don't work for a particular company. So when they come out and recommend something to you, it's not because they're trying to sell something. It's because they really think it's for the best interest of the farm, the land, and the animals.
you're right. Good point. I appreciate that input.
And that kind of leads into what I was going to ask too, because you do your Talk to a Farmer Friday, and it's so important that our consumers know there's farms in every state and they can buy local. But buying local, that's a huge piece of what consumers want to do now. Can you talk a little bit about what our consumers can do to support their local farms and farming practices?
Yeah, it's important for them to look around and see the U-pick areas and go out and spend time picking some of that fruit and get a little taste of what some of our wonderful employees that work for us do each and every day, and to talk to the farmer and be able to understand the things that he do and why he does it. But they also ought to feel really good about the food that they buy at their grocery store, because our farmers go to a lot of pain and a lot of work and take a lot of pride in the products that they grow and supply for them in the grocery store. And most of the time you can find out where most of those products are coming from, and make sure that you're supporting our local and our farmers, whether local means in your community or whether it means just grown in America.
And President Duval, I don't know if you remember this one time, and I know that Stephanie Smallhouse, when she was president for Arizona Farm Bureau, one thing that I've heard leadership say more than once is, we'll join the Farm Bureau even if you're not a farmer. And they say, well, why? And I know you have an answer to that.
Well, if you enjoy the food that you eat and you're proud of it, then you should be interested in supporting the system that gets it there. And that system, that food system that brings that food to the grocery store or to your local farmer's market is produced by farmers. And our organization was built to help farmers be sustainable and be able to be there from generation to generation. And your membership could very well support that system and help us make sure that the policies that are passed are good sound policies based on good common sense and science to be able to keep our farmers out there on their farms and working and producing that food that you enjoy, and you and your family enjoy every day.
Tammy, I like your question about affordability. You've got a good question about families and feeding them and the affordable food to give to
Yeah.
President Duvall.
Yeah, in terms of families and trying to keep their food affordable and healthy, what advice would you give families when they ask about the country's food production?
Well, I think, I said it earlier, they need to understand that, the food that we grow on our farms, we feed it to our own families. So you can be assured that it is safe. The things that we do, is recommended to us through our extension services and people that have done the research of what we do and how we do it and in the best way so that we can do it all the right way. Now, we support research and development that discovers those new techniques that we can move to and the new technologies that are coming down the pipe so that we can do an even better job. Our farmers are very eager to take on anything new that helps them do the right thing on their farm. So I just encourage people to not just read social media and trust what you read. Dig a little deeper, and the way you can dig a little deeper is to go to our website and watch some of those videos about farmers, or go visit a farm, because hearing it from a farmer's mouth of what he does and why he does it gives you an understanding, and with that understanding builds trust. We want you to trust what we're producing because we feed it to our own families.
I love that you mentioned the videos that the media team, your team at American has been doing. And by the way, for listeners, if you want to check them out, just Google American Farm Bureau and you'll get on their website and you can see some of those. And also follow their social media feeds or any State Farm Bureau's social media feeds, because we share those videos. They're very inspiring, very touching, and they really tell the story. I'm going to shift to a topic that a lot of our consumer listeners might be saying, Julie, why are you asking that question? But it's important for all of us to have some concerns about trade. And if I have this right, President Duvall, just the tracking that I do of everything, the U.S. is facing record agricultural trade deficits. Are there policy changes that Farm Bureau needs to recommend in order to help Congress get inspired to do the right thing? And or maybe a better question I should ask when it comes to trade policy and our concerns, you may need to speak to the deficit here as it relates to agricultural trade, but why should a consumer be worried about this?
Well, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've brought more food in than what we exported, and that is something America's never done.
Yeah.
That means more food that you're eating is coming from outside the country. And can you trust that food? We don't know what regulations that their governments have or what kind of inspections that they have there. We do know what we have in America. We have the safest food supply in the world because
Yes.
of the system that we work within the federal government. All the inspections and regulations that we have to go through. Some of them are too burdensome, but it is there to protect the people and keep the food safe, even though our farmers are doing a tremendous job. What our farmers need is a level playing field. Countries use agriculture first to be difficult in trading.
Wow.
Because what they want America to bring all their products that are built in their countries to America for Americans to buy, but they don't want to let our country produce food for their people without they put up these barriers that are not based on science, and those barriers are used politically to keep our products from being shipped into their country. But then they want to let their agricultural products come to America. And I think we just need to make sure that we level that playing field. And Mr. Trump, President Trump, has his style of how he's trying to level that playing field. And it is a very difficult thing to do because a lot of times when tariffs are put on countries, the first thing they swing back at is at American agriculture, which makes it difficult for our farmers. But in the long run, if he can level that playing field, it will be good for the farmer, and what's good for the farmer is good for the American people.
Are you hopeful?
I am hopeful.
Good.
I think that we've got more countries coming to the table and trying to put proposals in front of the president to allow that. And the president and his department, his trade department, has assured us that every trade deal will have a strong agricultural piece in it. That he wants to make sure that American farmers have those markets available to them.
I'm so
Great.
glad you're there talking.
Yeah, yeah. You have a big job, that's for sure.
Well,
And
the other thing is that people don't really realize is it's important for us to boost domestic use of our agricultural products, like renewable fuels. A lot of our corn is used for renewable fuel. A lot of corn and soybean grown across this country, and a very small percentage of it actually our people consume. A lot of it's used in renewable fuels. A lot of it's used for cattle feed and animal feed, and the more domestic use of that would really help our farmers and make our farms more sustainable.
Awesome.
yeah, and I know another big part of your job is with the Farm Bill. Out of curiosity, what have you found in working with the Farm Bill that the consumer or those you're trying to work with on the Farm Bill misconstrue? What is the biggest misperception you see related to the Farm Bill?
Well, really and truly, it ought to be called a food and farm bill. Because 82% of it, like I said, 82% of it is spent on a nutrition program, which is the food that our children eat at school, the programs where families that are going through difficult time can get food, can get assistance in getting food for their families as they hand up until they can get their feet on the ground. And that's the big portion of it. That's why it should be called a food and farm bill. The farm bill, the farm part of it, is a lot smaller. 15 to 16% of the farm bill is agricultural based. And in that, it is spread out over assistance to promote trade around the world, research and development dollars that we use to keep our farmers on the cutting edge and be sustainable and efficient. And really and truly, we don't put enough money there because we're being outspent by the rest of the world, almost 2 or 3 to 1 dollars of research and development dollars. And then we spend money on conservation, which helps farmers conserve the natural resources on their farm, which is good for every American.
Right.
Not just to see and enjoy, but to make sure that ground, that soil continues to improve and be productive in the future.
Makes me
And then the risk management tools that I've already spoken to.
Makes me think of what you said earlier about even on your farm that's been in the family for 90 years, you're continuing to always improve on soil, using practices that are regenerative and, all of those things. And that's common. That's very common across the American landscape with a lot of our generational farm and ranch families.
Well, I hear a lot of talk from people that aren't in agriculture about soil health and regenerative ag and sustainability. What they really don't know is we've been doing that for decades. But we're proud they're interested. It's a wonderful story to tell. I wished I had pictures of my farm, and I don't. That when my grandfather came there, it was 100 acres, and 70 of it was a ditch, a big gully with kudzu growing over it because it was left over from all the cotton that was grown for years and years and years. And when cotton boll weevil came, it washed away and left a huge gully. And we spent, my son's a 4th generation, regenerating that soil with putting chicken litter on it and making sure that we take it and plant it and overseed it and no-till it and do all the right things to make sure that soil continues to get better and better every year so that my son's son and my other children's children can continue to farm it and produce food for Americans out there.
That's awesome. And I always say the sustainability component with all of our generational farmers, they couldn't be on that same land for, the 100, 150, in some cases, 200-year farm that family has been on. They've been taking care, and there's been challenges like what you're expressing with your own farm, President Duvall.
Yes, rolling green hills now
Yes.
that cattle grazing on.
Oh.
Not a ditch with kudzu on it.
That's so awesome. So another thing that we're kind of curious about that I think is important, you already shared that you just recently had a 25-minute conversation with our president, but earlier, not too long ago, a lot of the state Farm Bureau presidents, along with you, met with the current administration. And I remember that because one of your staff's photographers sent a couple pictures to me of John Bolts, our president for Arizona Farm Bureau. And it was a pretty exciting time, and it was really interesting to hear about any big takeaways from that meeting, because the whole team was meeting most of the administration, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. And I'll tell you, hats off to our team at American Farm Bureau, because it took months and a year to develop relationships with the new people in this administration. Well, not a year, but all those months before we got to go in there to build those relationships and make that possible. I don't know of any other organization that's taken their whole board of directors and the remainder of the state presidents across the country that represent their organization to the White House. I don't know any other organization that's had that privilege to do that. And those cabinet members that got in front of our 50 presidents had the opportunity to hear those stories firsthand, right off the farm, right from those states, every region of the country, and the diversity was amazing. The diversity of the stories was amazing.
Fascinating.
And that is the most powerful tool we have. And to be able to walk into the White House and share those stories with the cabinet members was a powerful thing. And that's beneficial to every American out there, that those people that are developing those policies really know actually what's going on those farms through those stories.
Awesome.
Well, you mentioned diversity, and it made me think of another area that we're hearing a lot about in the news, because there's all kinds of opinion across the board on it, and that's MAHA, or the Make America Healthy Again movement. Could you talk to us a little bit about some of the pieces of that you feel like align well with farming, and then potentially any misperceptions they may have of farming?
Yeah, well, first off, no one, whether you're on farm or live in urban areas or in the cities, we all want a healthier America. All of us do. And whatever farmers can do to do that, we're willing to accept that challenge and do that. So we're really proud to be part of this process. And it really is an exciting time that people are interested in where their food comes, because it gives us opportunity to tell the story. As long as people have an open mind to hear the truth about what agriculture is, it really makes a difference. And one of the misconceptions that we've started out in this process with MAHA was the talk about doing away with pesticides. That sounds good on the surface, but if you realize what you're giving up to do away with all the pesticides, it is a very, very dangerous road to go down, because the pesticides helps us be able to conserve our land, helps us to be able to grow better fruits and vegetables, and people should have comfort in the system that provides us permission to use those pesticides. I know people don't get bored with statistics, but really and truly, the regulatory system that the EPA goes through before we can use a pesticide is very, very intense. It takes about 11 years to get a product to the market. 11 years of testing. and there's over 130 scientists at EPA that helps decide whether or not it's safe and at what level it's safe. Only 1 in 10,000 products makes it from the laboratory to the farm. 1 in 10,000. So a lot of things are rejected. And then the EPA requires the pesticide residue to be 10 times lower than the determined safe level that is determined by experts. 10 times lower. So we can be assured that that structure within EPA and our federal government is not going to give us something that's going to hurt people. And of course, our farmers go to extreme effort to make sure that they go by the label and apply it correctly. Because if it's found on their product after they grow it, it's going to be rejected and they won't get paid for it. And that's not any way to be able to run a business or sustain a farm. And that wouldn't be good for anybody. So we should have assurance that that food is safe. And that's a big misconception. And we've had an opportunity to share that. I had an opportunity to share that with the president. He asked me point blank, certain chemicals that we're using. He says, why do you need it? And once I explained it to him, he understood that it was important to the American people that we'd be able to keep those crop protection tools to be able to continue to produce that food and do it in a safe manner.
Staying on this topic, the pesticide topic, because like you said, President Duvall, it kind of sounds good that they should be banned, but Tammy and I had the best conversation with Arizona Farm Bureau President John Bolts, and he pointed out that whole line of what they call soft pesticides, I think is the term he used, where they only attack the pest that it's designed. That's why it takes so many years for some of these available, very safe and secure pesticides to come to market, because there's so much testing. So they have found very soft chemical makeups that it will attack the bad bug, but the beneficials, as our farmers call them, are not attacked. They're not destroyed. They are safe. So I guess to confirm some of the things that you pointed out, President Duvall, is if you only had a few minutes with a consumer, what ultimately would you say to them about the science-based focus that we have in agriculture of the things that we use?
Well, science-based means somebody's already tested and proven that if you use it according to that label, it's safe.
Yep.
I have people that work for me and my children work for me. I do not want to put them in danger, and I surely wouldn't want to put something on that product that someone's going to eat because my own child's going to eat it. And I'm not going to do it. My children, I sure wouldn't do it to yours either. So, there's no way to separate the two. So we want to do all the right things, but we have to trust the system. The MAHA movement is not really about taking pesticides away.
Okay.
It's about encouraging innovation and research to find new and better products. The innovation to be more precise in what we do, precision agriculture. And we need to have it in a way that all farmers have access to that innovation. And those are very difficult steps to take.
Yeah.
Because to get it there. But the MAHA movement is about having families eating good fruits and vegetables, whole food, grown in America, under a system where we know that we have safety valves to be able to protect the people that's eating it.
I love
And-
that. I love that.
And we have the safest food system in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, and the statistics you had were amazing, and it brought me back to what you said earlier, is when we bring food in from outside this country, we do not know how it's been scrutinized, and chances are not half as much as our food supply has been. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
and the
information.
things that people don't understand is that with no regulation in other countries, they're able to sell those products cheaper.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
And it puts a very, very difficult strain on our farmers that have to abide by the regulations, whether it be a wage rate that they pay their workers, or whether it be the Food Modernization Act that we deal with, that even tests the water that we wash the vegetables with. I mean, all the things that we do here, we're not assured that they do those things in other countries.
Wow. Tammy, you had one more question, and I did too.
That's true. That's true. Well, question for you. You have such a big job and so many things that you're working on and challenges. Is there one challenge in particular you feel like is at the top of the list, or is it something that you really, would keep you up at night thinking about?
Well, it's hard to put one. I've already said that labor is the biggest limiting factor we have in agriculture. Without a guest worker program, affordable legal worker program, our farmers are going to have a difficult time sustaining their farms into the future and passing it on and making sure that it stays a farm rather than becoming a subdivision or something else. So that's one. But two, the farm bill. Immediately, the farm bill's got to be done. Our farmers have to have those risk management tools to have that, to be able to go to the bank and borrow the money to put the crop in the land and ensure that they can get through the next year if we have some disaster, whether it's natural or in markets. And the third one is, the one really keeps me up at night is, look at me. I'm over the average age, but it's not very much below me. Average age of the farmer in America is approaching 60 years old. And at 60 years old, there's not a whole lot of years left to continue to farm. We have to find a way to have new and beginning farmers, young, middle-aged, whatever it might be. We have to create an environment that invites them to the farm and have the policies and rules and regulations that allow them to do the job that we have done for ever since this country was started. And that is one that keeps me up at night, because agriculture economically is in a very, very difficult time. Almost as bad as what we saw in the 80s when I was a young farmer then. And it was very difficult to sustain the farm during that time. And young people, it's difficult to bring them to the industry right now because of that. And we have to get trade deals. We have to get the regulation out of the way. We got to get labor on our farms. We got to solve these problems so that our young people will want to come to our industry and continue to grow the food for the American people in America by family farms, not corporations, but family farms, and not have to depend on other countries to produce our food.
Wow. I can't thank you enough for spending this much time with us, President Duvall. This has been a privilege and an honor. And as I ask this last question, I just want you to know how much we appreciate what you're doing, Tammy and I, just for this podcast, but overall what you're doing for American Farm Bureau, for our farmers and ranchers throughout the country. Ultimately, this benefits every plate on every American family's table. And again, I can't thank you enough. So my question's simple. It's that 30,000, hopefully it's simple, that 30,000 foot question that says, if there's one thing that you would have our listeners take away today after this great conversation about farming and healthy food and protecting our food supply, what's your biggest takeaway for us on behalf of our listeners?
Our farmers are hardworking, red-blooded Americans that have a passion to do what's right for their land, for their animals, and for the food that they produce for every pantry in this country and across the world. And they take a lot of pride in doing it the right way. And really and truly, our American people need to understand that if they're part of something like Farm Bureau and support the industry, that helps a farmer, because we're out there every day trying to make sure that the policies that are put in place not only help farmers, but keeps food safe and make sure that we do it at a level that people can afford it and be able to continue to sustain our farms for the future, so that we can provide that national security that comes with being able to feed our own people here in our country.
Beautiful. President Duvall, again, thank you so much. Tammy, this has been a great conversation this last hour.
It certainly has. We feel very privileged to have had you on today, and thank you so much for all you're doing for the American farmer, for the consumer, and for being on our show today.
Well, thank you, and thank you for what you do. So, because without y'all, we wouldn't be able to get spread the word of this great industry that we know as a family farming and agriculture.
We're having an honor doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless you.